Hello everyone, in this video lesson, I would like to discuss the basic concepts of quantitative research, and I would like also to address some of the questions that you have posted in our discussion forums previously. Let's get started. First of all, we have to discuss about the definition of research. Research is defined as the scientific method that provides an important way to obtain accurate and reliable information. So from this definition, we also get the purpose of doing or of conducting a research. That is, to get information. It is a way of knowing. But what kind of information? Information which is accurate and reliable. Yeah, and then how do we obtain this kind of information? By doing or by conducting a research, we get the information through sensory experience, through agreement with others, from expert opinions, from logic. Okay, and then research as a scientific method involves answering questions through systematic and public data collection and analysis. Yeah, okay, so from these explanations, we can say that research is not only collecting information, random information, or common information, but research is obtaining accurate and reliable information through scientific procedures, including the systematic and public data collection and analysis. Okay, so there are two characteristics here, systematic and public. Systematic and public. And then we have the word data. So the information that we collect or we obtain in research is also addressed as data. Okay. Here are some of the most common research methods. The first one is the topic of our course, quantitative research. And then we have qualitative research, we have mixed method, and we have classroom action research. Qualitative research, mixed method, and classroom action research will be the topics for the next course. If you pass this course successfully in the next semester, hopefully you will get to learn these three other methods. Yeah. Okay, so quantitative research and qualitative research. I have asked you to read the references about this and also the PowerPoint slides, right? But I found some of you seemed to be still confused about the difference between quantitative research and qualitative research, and also perhaps later mixed method. Yeah, so we will try to discuss about the differences to make it clearer for you to understand the basic concept of quantitative research. Okay, so let's take a look at this table of compare and contrast. We have quantitative research here in this column, and then this column is about qualitative research. Yeah, there are 6 aspects here that we can use to compare and contrast these two types of research methods. First aspect is about data or information that each research will obtain or deal with. For quantitative research, from the name quantitative research, quantitative, quantity, so it deals primarily with quantity, with numbers. So what kind of data do we have? For quantitative research, we will have numerical data, or the data in the forms of numbers. While on the other hand, for qualitative research, quality, we will deal primarily with data in the forms of words. Sometimes we might have numbers for qualitative research as well, but that is not the main data or the main type of data for qualitative research. Yeah. Okay, the basic assumption for quantitative research is that when you have facts and when you have feelings, they are different things. Facts and feelings can be separated. And this world that we are living in is a single reality. Okay, we will highlight this one, yeah? Single reality. Single reality means one type of reality made up of facts that can be discovered. So according to quantitative researchers, when you have a perspective of quantitative researchers, this world is a single reality consisting of facts that we can discover. So there is only one truth. Okay, if you are watching this very popular manga called Detective Conan, yeah, he always says something like, there's only one truth. Okay, so he is basically a quantitative researcher, yeah? So that's why later you know that Detective Conan, he is using deductive method to come into conclusion that is very much a quantitative approach. Yeah, okay, but we are going to talk about deductive and inductive later when we talked further about data analysis. Yeah, anyway, so that's the basic assumption of quantitative research. What about qualitative research? What will be the assumption of a qualitative researcher? Yeah, qualitative researcher thinks that this world is made up of multiple realities. It's not one single reality, but there are a number of realities. And these multiple realities are socially constructed by different individual views of the same situation. What does it mean? It's a bit confusing, isn't it? Okay, so let me give you an illustration for this. When we have a single reality or a single truth, one similar truth, it means that what I think of as a reality will be the same as what you think of as a reality. Yeah, and this can be represented easily by using numbers. How is it possible? Okay, say when we talk about numbers, yeah, okay, how many people are there in your class? When I ask you such a question, you will give me an exact number, right? And everyone, when they take a look at the attendance list for this course, everyone who reads the attendance list will see the same numbers. We'll see the same number, right? Okay, so this is a single reality. When I see 38 students, for example, when I give it to another person or other people, they will also see 38. So that is a single reality that we have, that there are 38 people in the list, for example, yeah? Okay, that's a single reality in terms of quantitative. But what about multiple realities? Okay, things like feelings might construct different realities. Okay, so for example, online learning. What do you feel about having to do online learning? Some of you will say, I'm okay with that. I'm happy doing an online learning because I don't really have to go to campus or see people and sit down in the class for hours. I can just do it at home comfortably. But there are some people who will feel bad about it, sad about it. Oh, I don't like online learning because I can't meet my friends. I cannot buy telur gulung or whatever jajanan you have in campus, right? Sometimes you have bad connections, so you can't really get what's going on in the Zoom meeting, for example. You cannot stream, so it gives you some bad feelings. So we have different types of reality here. A reality for people who think that this one is good, positively, and then the other one goes like, I don't like this, it's bad, or things like that. Yeah, so different individuals will have different views or different opinions, different feelings, and these different views, different feelings will socially construct what we call multiple realities. So the reality is not the same from one person to another. So that's multiple realities. And this is the assumption shared by qualitative researchers. Now you can see the difference, right? Okay, purpose is also different. The purpose they serve is also different. When you do quantitative research, what you want to know, what you want to investigate is what we call relationships between variables. What is a variable? We will discuss the definition later on in this video as well, yeah? Okay, so the purpose of quantitative research is to establish or to find relationships between variables and look for, sometimes explain the causes of such relationships, yeah? So the connections of variables, are variables connected or related to each other? And if they are related, is it a cause and effect relationship? Okay, when you have such mindset, when you have such purpose, that's the purpose of quantitative research. For instance, for example, you would like to know if online learning by using video tutorials on YouTube is effective, or okay, maybe I will change it a little bit. You would like to know if online learning through YouTube video has a significant effect on students' achievement. Okay, if you would like to know things like that, that's quantitative research domain, yeah? Because the purpose is to find cause and effect relationship. Okay, but the purpose of qualitative research is different. Qualitative researchers would like to understand situations and events from the viewpoints of participants. So instead of trying to find cause and effect relationship of online learning and achievement, if you do qualitative research, you would like to know what the students think or feel about online learning and whether they think that it has anything to do with their achievements. Okay, so we have the same variables here, online learning and achievement, but two different perspectives. The first perspective is to find out objectively the cause and effect. And the second perspective is trying to understand from the viewpoints of the participants. Yeah? Okay, so that's the difference in purpose. The difference in design, when you prepare your quantitative research, it has to be pre-established. What does it mean, pre-established? It means that you have to prepare everything before you go to the field to collect your data. Yeah, you have to have your hypothesis, your instruments in mind completely before you go to the field to collect or to obtain or to get your data. While for qualitative research, the design is rather flexible, yeah, because we rely on the viewpoints or the point of views of the participants. We rely on the participants very much. So sometimes things might change depending on the data that we will obtain. So there is no use of doing a pre-established design for qualitative research. Yeah, but it doesn't mean that you do not prepare anything before you obtain your data. Of course, you have to make some preparations, but the preparations for the design is more, the preparation is more flexible than quantitative research. Yeah. Okay, and then regarding the researcher's role, quantitative researcher is detached. Detached means not personal at all. Yeah, because we have to be objective. Yeah, so that's why when you do a quantitative research, you do not really identify your participants as truly an individual. Sometimes you assign them by giving numbers because it's kind of detached, yeah? But when you do a qualitative research, it is more immersed. It is more on a personal level. So when you interview someone, you have to know first about this interviewee, about this person that you are going to interview, yeah? And then you have to get some, to some extent, some subjective opinions from the participants as well, yeah? Okay, and then for quantitative research, we would like to generalize the results. What does it mean? It means that we hope that what we find from our research can be applicable to other similar contexts. Yeah, but for qualitative research, because it's mostly per case, so we do not really try to generalize the results. Yeah, meaning to say the results that we find from our qualitative research might be different if the research is done with other cases. Yeah, okay, so please keep in mind these differences. Yeah, okay, well, knowing the difference doesn't mean that we can claim something like this one is better than that one. Quantitative research is better than qualitative research, or the other way around. Qualitative research is better than quantitative research. No, it's not a matter of which one is better, but it's a matter of which one is more appropriate. Yeah, what kind of purpose do you have when you would like to conduct a research? Knowing your purpose, knowing your objective, knowing the problems that you would like to investigate will lead you to the answer of which one is more appropriate. Whether you should go quantitative path or qualitative path. Yeah, okay. Choosing quantitative versus qualitative is also not a matter of which one is easier, because both will be challenging as well. Both can be simple and both can be challenging as well. It depends on how complex you design your research. Yeah. Okay, so then again, later when you would like to write your thesis proposal, never really ask something like which one is easier to do or which one is faster to do, because, well, these two can be simple, they can also be difficult or complicated. You can do a quantitative research quite fast. You can do also qualitative research quite fast. But when we talk about time period, qualitative research will normally take a little bit of more time because the data are normally very rich. Yeah, meaning to say quite a lot. Okay, quite a lot, not in terms of numbers though. Yeah. All right, so let's continue. Let's talk about research design, but I will not focus on qualitative design at this moment. Yeah, I will focus only on the quantitative design. There are two categories for quantitative design. The first category is what we call the experimental category, and then the second category is non-experimental. Yeah, experimental, you have three types. The first one is what we call true experiment. The second one, quasi-experiment or quasi-experiment. The third one is pre-experiment. When talking about your research later, normally pre-experiment is not really recommended. Yeah, if you are my supervised student, I will normally not allow a pre-experiment. Yeah, why? Later when we discuss about each of these designs, you will get why. You will get the reasons why. Yeah, okay. So experimental, you have three types, and then non-experimental, most likely it belongs to what we call the descriptive research. This word descriptive is a little bit overlapping and problematic because sometimes it is also used by qualitative. Yeah, but here we have the classic descriptive quantitative, which refers to things like survey study and somehow correlation, ex post facto, or we call it causal comparative, evaluative, and methodological. Okay, which ones are normally or commonly done by English department students? These three: survey, correlation, and ex post facto. Yeah, in addition to the experimental design. Okay. Now let's go to some important basic concepts. Yeah, these concepts are the concepts that you should understand in the first place before conducting or before planning any quantitative research design. The first concept is what we call the research problem. Yeah, what is a research problem? Research problem is the focus of your research investigation. Yeah, okay. And then research problems will further be developed or stated or formulated in terms of questions. Why? To make it easier for you to answer or to solve. Yeah, okay. And then the essential characteristic of a researchable question is this one. It is feasible. It can be done. Yeah, okay, or it can be answered. What does it mean by it can be answered? Okay, it means that you can collect data or information to answer the questions. Yeah, okay. So research problem first. And how do we find the research problem? There are two common techniques or two common ways. The first one is from anecdotal evidence, but this is not too strong actually. What does it mean by the word anecdotal evidence? Anecdotal evidence means experience. So from the experience, a lot of your seniors got an idea for their thesis when they did their PPL or teaching practice. So when they had to teach or when they had to practice teaching, normally they could identify some problems or phenomena in the classroom. And this experience led them to think about possible ideas for research. The second one, which is more recommended, is from previous studies. Where can we find previous studies? Previous studies can be from the thesis or from the unpublished thesis, and more importantly, from published journal articles. Yeah. Okay, so you may identify some research problems from the studies which have been done previously. The gaps, especially the gaps or something which hasn't been found yet or hasn't been solved yet, hasn't been addressed yet by those previous studies. Yeah. Okay. So I have mentioned about previous studies, right? About the previous studies which can be reported in terms of unpublished thesis or journal articles. Okay, when we talked about the studies, we talk about literature review as well. Yeah. Okay, so there are three basic types of sources for our literature review. The first one is what we call general references. General reference or general references are something like database, yeah, and then primary sources and secondary sources. Primary sources are publications, research report, published research reports, journal articles. And then secondary sources refer to books or textbooks. Okay. The next concept is what we call variable. So we seem to talk about this previously already, right? I mentioned already about variables. Quantitative research tries to find out relationship between variables, but then you will not get it when you do not understand what a variable is yet, right? Okay, so a variable is any characteristic or quality that varies from the word variable, varies. Varies means differs, yeah, among the members of a particular group. So a characteristic which is different, which can be different from one person to another, from one thing to another. Okay. In this type of research, namely quantitative research, we deal with what we call a quantitative variable. So a quantitative variable is different in amount or degree. Yeah, because it's related to quantity. So the difference lies on the numbers. It can be amount or degree. Okay. Later on, you will deal with these two types of variables. The first one is what we call an independent variable. Yeah, independent variable is used for cause and effect relationship for studies or for research which focuses on trying to find cause and effect relationship. Yeah, independent variable is assumed to have an effect on other variables. Okay, these other variables are what we call dependent variables. Yeah. Okay, so we will discuss about these later, these two variables later when we discuss about specific research designs, namely experimental design. Yeah. Okay, so here are some more explanations on independent variables. Okay, the next important concept is what we call hypothesis. This is particularly important for quantitative research. What about qualitative research? Qualitative research has what we call a proposition, not really a hypothesis, yeah? But for quantitative research, we have hypothesis. Although later you will learn that there is a type of design which does not really require hypothesis, yeah? Okay, hypothesis as used in research refers to a prediction of results, usually made before a study or a research commences. What does it mean? It's our temporary scientific assumption that we prepare before we conduct the data collection or before we investigate. Okay. There are two types of hypothesis. The first one is what we call directional hypothesis. When we formulate directional hypothesis, we predict the specific nature of a relationship. It's directed already. The other one is what we call a non-directional hypothesis. When we formulate this hypothesis, we make a prediction that some sort of relationships exist, but we do not specify the exact nature yet. Okay, it's a little bit confusing, isn't it? Agak bingung ya. Okay, so first of all, let's go back to the definition of hypothesis. So hypothesis is a prediction. Prediction means it may be tested as true or accepted or not accepted. Yeah, okay. So we may make a prediction very specifically already by stating the direction of the relationship, or we can make it a little bit more neutral, non-direction. For example, we would like to investigate correlation or connection between variable A and variable B, or variable X and variable Y. We assume that variable X and variable Y are correlated. Okay. When we predict it in a directional way, we may say something like variable X correlates positively with variable Y. Variable X berkorelasi positif dengan variabel Y. Hipotesis yang seperti itu namanya directional hypothesis, karena kita sudah memprediksi bahwa direction atau arah dari korelasinya adalah korelasi yang positif, bukan yang negatif. Gitu. Oke, nanti kita akan belajar lebih lanjut tentang jenis-jenis korelasi. Oke, but for your information first, we have what we call positive correlation and negative correlation. Ya, oke. Kalau directional hypothesis seperti itu tadi, so we already predict the direction, but sometimes we can't really figure it out yet, right? It might be positive or it might be negative. So why not just stating as variable X correlates with variable Y. Asumsinya adalah variabel X ini berkorelasi dengan variabel Y. That's it. Mau korelasinya positif atau mau korelasinya negatif, we'll see later. Okay, that's non-directional hypothesis. Yeah. Hypothesis is, of course, related to your research questions, which means that it is related to your research problems. Ya. Jadi research problem, research questions, dan hipotesis ini ketiganya berkaitan. Ya, ketiganya berkaitan. Okay, let's continue. Two more important basic concepts that you have to know about research, especially about quantitative research, is what we call population and sample. Okay, population here does not have anything to do with census, populasi, penduduk, tidak. What we refer to as a population in quantitative research, okay, yang biasanya menggunakan istilah populasi dan sampel, ini adalah penelitian kuantitatif, ya. Okay, population adalah all the members of a particular group. Okay, but not just any groups. Population refers to the group of interest, the group that you would like to investigate. Yeah, okay, that's your population. So every researcher might have different population. Yeah, okay, but sometimes population can be very large, can be very big. Yeah, when we do a research, we have 3 levels of analysis or target analysis. The first one is what we call the macro level, and then we have the meso level, and then we have the micro level. Okay, macro, meso, micro. Macro, macro means the big ones, right? Okay, for example, countries, continents. Okay, meso is in the middle, something like organization. And then the last one, micro, is the smallest. For example, family, individuals. Okay, so sometimes your population is in the level of macro, in the level of country, Indonesia, for example. But Indonesia is such a huge country. You cannot really collect data from everyone that you are interested in the whole country, right? Okay, but is it not possible to investigate then? It is still possible, but what you need to do is to select a part of this population which is representative. Yeah, okay, that is what we call sample. Sampel adalah bagian dari populasi yang representatif. Yang tidak representatif is not really your sample then. Yeah, okay. All right, so this population and sample are very important for quantitative research, and you have to determine your population and sample before you are able to collect your data. Because it is a quantitative research, then when we talk about population and sample, we also talk about the size. How many people should be in the sample? Okay, when it comes to the question of size or numbers, there will be different techniques of getting the sample size as well, yeah? And of course, the sample size will depend on the type or design that you are going to use, whether you are going to conduct a survey research, whether you are going to conduct a correlational research or experimental research. So you need different sample size, yeah? Okay, and then the technique of selecting your sample out of the population, or the process of selecting the members of your sample, is what we call sampling. Yeah. Sampling may be either random or non-random. For quantitative research, we may use random or non-random, but it is recommended that researchers or quantitative researchers use random sampling. Why? Because we would like to generalize our results or our findings. Sampling atau teknik sampling yang dianjurkan untuk penelitian kuantitatif adalah yang acak, yaitu random. Kenapa? Karena kita mau menggeneralisasi hasil temuan dari penelitian kuantitatif kita. Ya. Tapi kalau nggak bisa random, karena situasinya atau kondisinya, misalnya kita bisa juga menggunakan yang namanya non-random sampling. Ya. Tapi tentu saja implikasinya adalah hasilnya tidak sekuat random sampling dalam hal statistik. Ya, dalam bagian statistical power-nya, dalam hal menggeneralisasi findings-nya. Oke, random sampling atau sampling acak ini bukan berarti sembarangan, ya, tutup mata terus tarik ini tarik itu, ini yang jadi sampel kita, bukan. Meskipun namanya random atau acak, tapi tetap ada prosedur di sana. Ya, we still have procedures, scientific procedures to do that. Ya. Random sampling ini terbagi lagi menjadi 3, yaitu simple random sampling, stratified random sampling, dan cluster random sampling. Ada di bukunya, silahkan dibaca satu-satu, apa saja yang dimaksud dengan simple random sampling, seperti apa caranya, stratified random sampling, seperti apa caranya, dan cluster random sampling, seperti apa caranya. Ya. Sementara itu, on the other hand, non-random sampling includes what we call systematic sampling, convenience sampling, dan purposive sampling. Purposive sampling yang terakhir ini banyak digunakan atau merupakan sebenarnya teknik sampling utama untuk qualitative research. Ya, oke. Ya, so please make sure that you read about population and sampling in our main references as well. Ya, kenapa? Terutama sekali untuk quantitative research, kita harus memastikan bahwa pemilihan sampelnya tidak bias, pemilihan sampelnya ini valid dan reliable. Karena ketika tidak dilakukan dengan tepat atau tidak sesuai dengan prosedur, maka itu akan mempengaruhi dari validitas dan reliability dari data yang kita kumpulkan. Karena kita mengumpulkan data dari sampel ini kan ya, kalau sampelnya sudah tidak diambil dengan baik dan benar, sampelnya bias, maka akan mempengaruhi keabsahan dari data yang kita ambil. Ketika datanya sudah tidak sah, sudah tidak valid atau tidak reliable, apalagi tidak valid dan tidak reliable, maka keseluruhan dari penelitian kita ini ya sudah dianggap tidak valid atau tidak reliable. Ini banyak terjadi di mahasiswa yang sedang mengerjakan skripsi, tidak hati-hati dalam proses sampling ini yang untuk penelitian kuantitatif ya, yang mengambil penelitian kuantitatif, tidak berhati-hati ketika melakukan pengambilan sampling sehingga caranya tidak tepat, sudah seminar hasil ketahuan, harus diulang lagi dari awal. Karena that's the only way ya. You cannot really defend your research ketika samplingnya is not valid. Okay, so be careful. Alright, so the next one, we will talk about data. Data, you know the data is information, right? Okay, but what kind of information? The accurate and valid information yang kita peroleh dari subjects of our research, from your sample. Oke, bagaimana cara kita mendapatkan data ini? How do we obtain data? By using instruments, dengan menggunakan instruments. Cara kita mengumpulkan data, proses kita mengumpulkan data itu disebut dengan instrumentation. Ya, oke. When we talk about instruments, ada 2 aspek yang penting, yaitu instrumen tersebut harus valid dan instrumennya harus reliable. Harus diuji dulu apakah dia valid dan reliable atau tidak. Ya, kenapa? Karena tadi seperti yang sudah saya bilang, sama seperti sampel, ketika instrumen atau alat yang kita gunakan untuk mengambil data itu tidak tepat, tidak sesuai tujuannya, tidak valid, dan dia tidak konsisten, maka data yang diperoleh juga tidak valid dan tidak reliable. Ya, secara keseluruhan, it will make your research or the whole research invalid and unreliable, which is the end of everything. Okay. Types of instruments, ada beberapa tipe instrumen yang biasa digunakan. Oh, by the way, when we construct instrument, there are 3 different techniques. Ada 3 cara untuk mempersiapkan instrumen untuk mengambil data. The first one is what we call the self-constructed. Maksudnya apa self-constructed? That means that you as a researcher, you make or you construct your own instrument. Buat sendiri. Okay, but this is quite difficult to do because you need to be quite an expert. And then the second one is to adopt. Adopt means there are instruments which have been constructed and tested by previous researchers, and you can use those instruments in your research. They are already standardized. Yeah. When you adopt, it means that you use the whole thing similar to the original one. And then the third one is what we call adapt. When you adapt an instrument, you may modify the instruments, meaning to say you do not really use it 100%. There will be parts that you use, there will be parts that you will not use, or there will be parts that you will modify, change some of the parts. That's adapting. Yeah. Okay. Later on, you will learn further about these 3 techniques of creating or constructing your instruments. Yeah. But what are the typical instruments that we use in quantitative research? As you know that our data in quantitative research are in the forms of numbers, right? So you have to use tools which obtain numerical data. For example, test. Okay, when you give a test, when you administer a test, your data will be in the forms of scores. Yeah, okay, so these scores are numbers. So tests will be one of the most common instruments. Second one, questionnaire. Questionnaire with what we call scales. And then we have rating scales as well. We have flowchart, checklist, and so on and so forth. Social metric devices, quite a lot of instruments that we can use for quantitative research, but make sure that the data that we collect, the data that we obtain are in the forms of numbers, numerical data, quantitative data. Okay. Yeah, so those are the basic concepts that you need to know before you go further to discuss some more specific information like designs of quantitative research. Yeah. The concepts that we have discussed, I took them from your main reference, yeah, the ones that you have actually read and summarized in your previous assignments. So I hope I have answered some of the common questions that you have posted in your discussion forums. So I saw questions about differences between quantitative and qualitative, some questions related to hypothesis, some questions related to variables. I do hope that some of those questions have been addressed during my explanation in this video lesson. Yeah. Okay, I think I still remember one of the specific questions about hypothesis. When you read the book from Frankel, Wallen, and Huhn, they mentioned that there are advantages and disadvantages of hypothesis or formulating hypothesis, right? So there was one question asking about how to minimize or how to avoid the disadvantage, right? Okay, one of the disadvantages of formulating hypothesis will be the researcher's bias, meaning to say that it is possible for us to want to get the answers to our research questions the way we want it. Maksudnya apa? Kita bisa berpikir bahwa oke, saya maunya nanti pertanyaannya ini jawabannya kayak gini. Dari research questions yang sudah kita formulate itu jawabannya maunya kayak gini. But maunya kayak gini ini lebih personal, bukan scientific. It may happen, especially when you are just a beginner researcher. Yeah. Okay. So how to avoid that? How to avoid this big disadvantage? The way is by becoming or trying to become neutral about it, especially because this is quantitative research and we need to be objective. Ya, jadi maksudnya seperti apa? Jadi misalnya kita mau meneliti tentang efek, sebab dan akibat, ya. Kita mau mencobakan sebuah teknik mengajar misalnya dan melihat efeknya terhadap kemampuan siswa, for example. Tentu saja yang kita inginkan adalah teknik yang kita eksperimenkan ini memiliki efek yang signifikan untuk meningkatkan kemampuan siswa, ya. Oke. Kita kalau if we have the bias, kalau kita punya biasnya, biasanya kita akan nanti mengarahkan bagaimana supaya data yang diambil dan hasilnya ini nanti akan memperlihatkan yang kita mau, yaitu ada efek, ya. We should not do that. Ya, jadi nanti bagaimanapun hasilnya, apakah ada efek atau tidak, itu akan ditunjukkan oleh data sendiri, ya, bukan datanya kita utak-atik sehingga sesuai nanti dengan yang kita inginkan. That's a big no. Okay, so that's why dalam memformulasi hipotesis itu diusahakan as neutral as possible, as a researcher, as honest as possible. Yeah, okay, so I do hope that answered that particular question. Okay, so that's the end of the video lesson. Now what you need to do for meeting 4, yeah, after watching this video, please write down a comment summarizing what you have learned from this video and also from your previous assignments. Yeah, type your comment in the comment section here on YouTube, right under this video. Okay, yeah, and then for meeting 5, please read the guide. You will have to work with a partner, so pair work, yeah, and you will have to do a library study, very simple literature review. Yeah. For further information, please check the guide file that I have uploaded, that I have posted on our virtual class in our MOLS platform. Okay, so that's the end of this video lesson, and I'm looking forward to discussing the points with you in the comment section.